Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight on essays and interviewing. My guest today is Hilary Kayle Crist, and she is the founder of College Entrance Edge. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
No problem. So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I went to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Go Blue.
Yeah, great. Okay. So let's go back in time.
Okay.
Usually, I want to know when did you start thinking about college? Was it freshman year, senior year of high school? When did it all begin?
I would say probably around sophomore year.
Sophomore.
I had an older sister who was 4 years older, so I was aware of the process, and I was close to my cousins who'd been through the process. At the time, I was looking at schools that had good acting departments, and I applied to the University of Michigan, Oberlin, Northwestern. I would have been in the first female class at Colgate, and I also applied to Duke. My parents wanted me to apply to an Ivy, which I wasn't interested in, but I did that for them. Okay. Michigan was always my first choice. I visited a cousin of mine during a football weekend, and that kind of sealed the deal. But they also had a lot of different possibilities in terms of courses that you could take, right, activities that you could get involved with. I went to a large high school, New Rochelle High School, so I wasn't overwhelmed by the large campus there, and it was just the right fit for me.
Great. So give us the process that you took. Was your mom and dad involved? How did you end up picking Michigan State?
It was the University of Michigan.
University of Michigan.
Michigan State's the rival. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, actually, my mother went to the University of Michigan for a couple of years. It's very funny because I thought as soon as I hit campus, people would say, "Are you Dorothy Kayle's daughter?" which is ridiculous because it's such a huge school. I had also gone to the National Music Camp in Interlochen, Michigan, so I met a lot of Michigan people, and the University of Michigan had a presence there. It's called the Interlochen Arts Camp now. It used to be called the National Music Camp. So that was my first exposure to the Midwest, and having grown up in New Rochelle, New York, in the Northeast, I really liked the Midwest. It just seemed people were friendlier. It just seemed like the right place to go to try something different. So, and again, as I said, I was looking for good theater schools.
Were there other schools that you ended up going to visit before you picked the University of Michigan?
I visited all the schools that I applied to, except for Duke, which was in the South. And it was so interesting. I think that's still important today because you get such a feel for the campus when you go there.
Yeah.
And that's really important. Every campus has its feel. And you have to, I felt good at all the places that I applied to.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing to do. I did take the time to visit people who were at the schools.
So now you're at University of Michigan. What's the school like? How did it feel to you? Give us a little
well, the thing about Michigan is, first of all, they have a huge alumni. So there's alums there that come to every football game. Of course, the students are at every football game. I never knew anything about school spirit, so that was very exciting for me. Also, I was lucky enough to be in the honors college, and the advantage there was that you had first choice of certain courses. You also had classes with professors instead of just teaching fellows. Wow. So it was a very good experience for me. I ended up switching actually from theater into communications. One of my professors said, "You have a good voice for broadcast," so I took a different path. My parents insisted that I also have an English major because they felt a communications major wasn't really enough. And ironically, some years later, I ended up at the Today Show where I was the assistant book coordinator. So I was one of the few people, I think, who used both my degrees. I was reading galleys or advanced review copies for authors that were going to come on the show. So that was the English part of it. And I was at the Today Show, so that was the communications part of it. So I used both.
Great. So that gives me to my next question. How do you go from graduating University of Michigan to the founder of
College Entrance Edge?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I'm a triple threat in this business because I have this background in communications. I'm actually a professional writer. I've been writing for about 30 years, articles and a couple of novels. I currently write for Publishers Weekly. I review books for them. I'm also a professional interviewer. I interview authors and publishing executives who will be appearing at the annual Book Expo. Publishers Weekly puts out a newspaper called Show Daily, so that's another area that I'm in. And also the editing, I kind of put together writing and editing. I've been editing for years. I've edited nonfiction and fiction books. I help with an educational nonprofit institution. I edit their PR and interviews, that sort of thing. The other thing is I'm an actress. So I'm a professional actress. I currently work with Without a Q Productions. They do murder mysteries in the area, but I've done professional stage work as well. And it's important, I think, in anything you do to be able to take stage, to put yourself forward. So that's another area that I'm using now.
Right.
So with the writing and the editing and the acting and the interviewing, I felt these skills were very specific to help a high school student with their essay or with their interview.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did it all get started? How did College Entrance Edge get started? What did you actually do to start it up?
Well, to start it up, I started networking with people. I did a beta test to see how I worked with high school students, and that went very well. It's interesting, some students really know exactly what they want to write, so I was working more as an editor with them. Some students really need help deciding which of the essays are a better fit for them, so then I can brainstorm with them and help them come up with what works best for them. As far as the interview, you know, parents can do an interview with their student, with their child. Counselors can also do the interview with that student, but it's different when you have an outsider who doesn't know them, because they have to get used to working with strangers, to being interviewed by strangers. And because of my acting experience, I can help them achieve a certain comfort level, because I know what it's like to take stage and all of that. So I decided, because I had all of these skills, I thought this would be a good business to get into, and I decided to launch the business.
Right. Now, essay writing, are there particular essays that every school has? What type of essays are they?
Well, you know, I have with me the 2017-2018 essay prompts. And the one thing that's interesting about the essays this year, they have two new ones. Okay. One is describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? That's one new one. The other one is share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So these two are basically giving carte blanche to the student. They can write about whatever they want to. A lot of students make the mistake of feeling that they have to list all of their activities or talk about their achievements. And that's not really what the essay is about. Colleges want to see who that individual is, what sets them apart from everyone else. College is so competitive now. There are a lot of students who do well, they test well, they write well. They have lots of extracurricular activities. That's been something that's been on their mind for years. So how do you separate out from the pack? Well, one way to do that is with the essay. And I find that students need to focus on what they're passionate about. If you're passionate about Dungeons and Dragons, then write about Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe you get other kids to play with you. That shows leadership skills. That shows that you're a team player. So there are things that you can put in that essay that really make you stand out.
So is this a common application essay? Do all the schools have the same essays?
Well, there are a large group of schools that use the common application, and the essay prompts are part of that application process.
Gotcha.
So that you have one application that goes out to the group of schools that you want to. There are other colleges that have their own essay questions that they may ask you, so that's of course a different thing.
So these are the ones that are common app.
These are the common app essay prompts, yes, for kids applying to school in 2017 and 2018. They change them every other year. This is what they'll be working with. The other thing about interviews, not all colleges require interviews, and some interviews are done with alumni that might be in the local area. But that's a different kind of interview than if you actually go on campus and interview with one of the admissions people.
And how does that process begin?
Well, it really depends on the school. as I said, some schools don't require them, some schools do. It was interesting. I went to a college night recently at Hunterdon Central, and there were a lot of colleges there. It was interesting to talk to them and also to talk to some of the military schools that were there, like West Point. And they look at things very differently because they're looking for leadership skills. So while grades are important and activities are important, it's really important for them to see that you're a leader. So in that case, the recommendations that you get would be very important to show that sort of thing.
Yeah, interesting. So the interviews, the whole process of the interviews, it's not every school.
That's right. And I'm not sure exactly why certain colleges feel that they need to have them and why others don't. I suspect that the more demanding colleges, the more competitive colleges, perhaps want to see that student in person. And it makes a difference. You know, it has a certain weight when they look at the whole picture. I think having that personal contact can really make a difference. The other thing is, even for schools that don't require them, I think it's important for a kid to make their presence known because it's so competitive. So it's very important for kids to go on the campus tours and to let their contact know that they're interested in that school. I mean, these things are obvious, but it's really important for kids to step up and take that.
So do you help them in the whole entrance process, or just the essay? And the
I'm
interview?
really focused on the essay and the interview because their counselors are really have more expertise in matching the right student to the right place, that sort of thing. Also the financial piece of it, that's not something that I know very much about. I just am very focused on what my skill set is all about.
Yeah, interesting. And is there a particular area that you work in, or is it
You mean physically?
all of New Jersey?
Oh, well,
is it everywhere in the United States?
No, yeah.
You go around the globe?
Well, what makes me different from other services, one thing in particular, is that I really insist on working in person. So I'm happy to go to the student's home. I also have an office in Stockton, New Jersey, so they can come to my office. I do have a sort of a travel limitation, and if I go out of, let's say, 40 miles from where I live, then I will add on a travel fee, which I think is reasonable. I don't think it works to do Skype. I know there are a lot of places that do that. I'm not really interested in that. I'm really interested in working one-on-one, so I keep it local. I'm in Hunterdon County. I'm a half-hour due west of Princeton. So I have kind of a big radius around me within which I can work.
So how do parents and students find you?
Well, very easy, www.collegeentranceedge.com. That has the information. It has information about my background. It shows the services. And of course, I might as well say my phone number, 609-397-7967. That's a way to reach me.
Great, fantastic. So give us a whole process of what the colleges are doing with the essay and the interviewing. Is there a particular process that you know that the colleges are doing?
Well, this is what's interesting. They read every essay. I just heard that last year there were 35,000 applicants for the University of Michigan, which had 6,000 spots.
Wow.
And they said every essay is read. So as to exactly who reads the essay, I'm not sure if it's the entire admissions staff or if they fan it out. I honestly don't know, but they actually do read every essay. So that's really an important piece.
And what's the percentage of that essay compared to everything else on the application? Is there a percentage that they give it, or is
No, I honestly don't know what that is, but it certainly is something, as I said, that sets the student apart. I did hear a story about someone who was turned down from a school because their essay didn't show who they were all about. The essay was more about someone that they were interested in. Yeah. And, you know, I think that's really sad that it was the essay that made the difference. Yeah. But I think the essay can make the difference in giving you an edge and making you stand out. And that's why it's so important to write about something that you're passionate about. And what's great about the prompts this year is that they are allowing you that flexibility. They're basically saying, write about whatever you want. It's 650 words. That's really not a lot. That's like maybe 2.5 double-spaced typed pages. So if you're passionate about something, hopefully you can write.
Now, is there something
about
that
that.
goes into the essay that needs to be in there? I mean, do they start out with a particular topic?
Well, they have these specific prompts, you know, and
Yeah.
a school might have a specific, they may say, what's the biggest obstacle in your life that you've ever had to overcome?
Mhm.
So you would have to do that. With this kind of flexibility that they have this year, you could tell a story about something that happened to you when you were a child that made a huge impression on you.
Yeah.
You could talk about something, you know, if you love to cook, why do you love to cook? Who do you feed? That sort of thing. If you're a cashier at the supermarket, you know, I see a lot of college kids there, and of course, I mean high school students. I'm passing out my card there. They could write about some of the experiences that they have on the cashier line. They meet all kinds of humanity
Sure.
in that store. And it might not even occur to them that that would be a great thing to write about. So that's where I come in to help them.
Yeah. So that's a big thing. Do you see the type of topics that the kids write about? Is there a majority of one particular topic that a lot of kids tend to write about? Because schools don't want to hear topics like about, you know, how to fix the global warming or anything like that.
No. I'm honestly, it's a new business, so I don't have a lot of experience so that I could say most people are writing about X. But what I do keep hearing from the admissions people that I've spoken to is that too many kids write about all the clubs they belong to, all of the extracurricular activities they do. And even with that, I would advise kids, don't spread yourself out so thin. Find something you really love and stick with it.
Mhm.
And with the essay, as I said, finding something that you're really passionate about, that's what they want to see, because they want to see what makes you different from everybody else. If you like chocolate, then talk about chocolate. Talk about the different chocolates that you like, or why you like milk chocolate instead of dark chocolate. I mean, there are things that you can pin down
Yeah.
that will set you apart from someone else. One of the students that I worked with talked about being a stage manager for her high school production and how someone was a mentor to her, and then she became a mentor for someone else. And it was a great little story, and she had dialogue in there. It was really a different kind of essay. So she went outside of the box, and she did get into her first choice school. It's not just because of the essay, but I'm sure that that made a difference.
So let's get into the interview process.
Mhm.
Is there particular questions that they ask at the college level that kids can study up on?
Well, there are lots of websites that list questions, but you can bet that they're definitely going to ask you, why do you think this college is right for you? So that's a definite. The other thing is that they're going to want to find out what people perceive, whether it's your teacher or your parents or your friends. What is your best quality? What is your worst quality? Everyone has both. And it's really important that a child look at himself or herself and figure out the truth.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a procrastinator, own it, because you can talk about how you get through that.
Yeah.
You know, if it's hard for you to get out of bed in the morning, talk about that. If you're hyper on time and you get upset when no one else is on time, you know, that may be a good thing and a bad thing. So it's just important to be honest and to really have a plus and a minus about yourself.
So now, do you also teach them how to dress on the interview?
Well, I talk about the things that people look for. They look for eye contact. They look at how you dress. That's another thing that was stressed at these college nights. When students go for interviews, it's important that they dress nicely. You're not going to wear the torn jeans and the T-shirt with the sayings. I mean, you'd think this is obvious, but it's amazing what kids show up wearing also. And I really understand this. They don't want parents to be over-involved. They really want the students to take the initiative. But if you see that your kid is wearing something that they shouldn't, it's important to say something.
Yeah.
Also, if you see a typo in your child's essay, point it out to them before it is sent out.
Yeah.
Some parents don't. They just feel like, well, you know, I don't have time, or I don't want to deal with it, or this is their problem. You really want your kid to look the best while, you know, pulling back a little bit and letting your student take initiative.
Now, how much do the parents get involved? Do you see the parents getting really involved in your process with the
It's the
student?
full gamut. It's the full gamut. I mean, some parents want to be in the room with you while you're doing everything. Some of them will let you have alone time with their student. It runs the full range. I prefer to work alone with a student. I just think it's better for a comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
But also, that student is going to be alone when they talk to an admissions person. So I think it's important to do that. Also, in terms of the writing, I want to establish a rapport with a student and really understand what makes them different.
Mm.
And so I need to spend some time to do that with them.
And are you helping the student with writing skills as well? Because some students probably are not as good as some other students in writing.
Well, if a student is having trouble writing, I'm not a tutor, so I would suggest that. I haven't come across that yet. Most of the students who apply to college are fairly good writers. If there are certain habits that they have when they write that they might not realize, I'll point that out to them. But I don't do the writing for them. You know, I'm an editor. I might say this word is better than that word, or you use this word a lot. I mean, it was funny. When I wrote my first novel and I had experienced an editor, a professional editor for the first time, she said, you know, you have a certain tick that you use when you write. I had no idea. The word besides.
Really?
I must have had it maybe 20 times within 2 or 3 chapters, and I was shocked because I just didn't realize it. But that's why all writers need editors.
Yeah.
All actors need directors. You need to
Yeah.
have someone from the outside.
Love
And
that.
that's another reason why I can be helpful, as I said, compared to a counselor or parent, because there are things that I can see and also that I can say, because I'm an outsider,
Yeah.
that hopefully a student will listen to or connect with.
So what type of students are coming to you? Are there these A students, B students, average students?
You know, it's a range. It's a range. The point of my business is really to give them an edge on the process.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter where they are, if they're an average student, they want to be able to stand out from the other average students. If they're a really good student, they want to stand out from the other good students. So it's really a range. I haven't come across anyone who doesn't know how to write well. So
Yeah.
I've been lucky. And as I said, I would probably recommend a tutor if they're really having communication problems, writing problems.
Now, do you also talk to the parents before you take the student on?
Again, it depends. Well, the parents are the ones who hire me. So yes, I do talk to them.
Yeah.
And I make it clear what I'm going to do, and they have questions for me, and you know, we work something out mutually.
Now, do you also go to the high schools? Do you do any seminars at the high schools or
Well,
anything like that?
I haven't gotten involved in that yet. High schools are kind of protective about their staff and their counselors, and so I don't want to impede in that process, but I've been able to network. So at some point, when I maybe have a bigger pool of people that I've worked with, perhaps I might do a seminar. But at this point, it's just working with parents, getting the word out through my website, through my contacts, through people such as yourself.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at right now.
So the interview and the essay writing is probably one of the most important things to go into college.
Well, as I said, grades are important. How you test is important. Keeping up your grades is important. You know, we hear about senior slump. That's really not a good thing to do. And not being spread too thin with your extracurricular activities. Those things are important. But it's really the essay that shows your individuality. So that's a very important part of it. But there are certain schools that they're very much focused on the grades and the test scores, and the essay is important, but maybe it's not as important as those other pieces. It really depends on the school.
Or their extracurricular activities.
That's right.
And a lot of kids have those extracurricular activities.
Yeah, you know, for example, if you're a leading person in sports or in performing arts, that's going to give you an edge.
Right.
You still have to show that you can write the essay. And for example, if you're an athlete, they don't want to see an essay about sports. They want to see another side of you. So that's an important
Very interesting.
piece of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of our show.
Okay.
Usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to parents out there that their sons and daughters are interested in getting more information about essays and interviewing. What advice do you want to give to those parents?
Well, other than, of course, hiring me, I think it's important for parents to help their kids be ahead of the game. People start sending off the applications if they're a senior this fall. So if they haven't started working on the essay, we have the summer ahead of us.
Yeah.
They should really start thinking about that now. I know there are already certain financial information deadlines that have had to be met. I hope that parents are on top of that piece of the puzzle. Again, you want the student to take initiative, but this would be a time to visit campuses during the summer and to make sure they get a feel for a place. I've heard some people say it's better not to take an official tour, but just to go to the cafeteria, try and meet students, because sometimes if you have a tour guide that you don't connect with, that can change how you feel about a school, and that would be a shame, you know.
Yeah.
But it's important to go there, go to a cafeteria, talk to the students. Of course, it would be best to go while school is in session, but sometimes that's hard to suss out.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.